BattleBit Remastered received its latest update earlier this week, version 2.1.1. This update was primarily focused around the introduction of community servers, but it also made some tweaks and adjustments that will have a noticeable effect on how we play the game going forward. Personally, I'm really glad to see some of these changes. A lot of them have been highly requested by the community over the past few weeks, and I'm glad to see we've got such a focused development team that are quick to correct issues and don't leave us in the lurch for 3 months at a time with 0 patches. The biggest part of this update has been the introduction of public community servers. The footage you're seeing on screen at the moment is actually from the Aussie Better Gaming server here down under, and it plays a bit different than any other server I've been on so far, as this community server is running at 240Hz, or 240 tick rate, and that makes a noticeable change to the gunplay. Traditionally, all servers up until now have played at 60Hz. That means that data to and from the server is coming through at a rate of 60 updates per second. This server having 240Hz means that you're getting 4 times the updates, and this will be most apparent in terms of movement and when you're firing at the enemy. I found that I'm getting more consistent hits on target too when firing at moving targets, and I don't know if that's just placebo at play, but I played a few rounds on this server and then jumped back on the official 60Hz server, and I believe I could feel a bit of a difference. You would have seen those servers set up with higher tick rates in older games like Battlefield, and always felt like a smoother experience back then. So you might be wondering why these higher tick rate servers are only appearing on community end and not on the official servers owned by the BattleBit Remastered dev team, and the simple answer is supply and cost. The dev team have always been quite open about their experiences while hosting the official servers, and it's a very costly affair to maintain servers all over the world at a reasonable price. A huge undertaking for a team of 3 people, no doubt. The quality and availability of high-end hosts will vary from region to region, so to keep the experience as even and grounded as possible, I believe they've opted for 60Hz only on the official servers all over the world. Whether they will upgrade to 240Hz servers eventually remains to be seen. They may just let the community servers take over entirely in the future. Another cool thing that they added in is they've added in the older map versions for certain maps into the community server pool, so that all players will now have the opportunity to play the earlier versions of certain maps from the days of the weekend playtests and before, so that's pretty cool to see. Now, moving on to the in-game changes, I'm not going to go over everything here as you've likely already read these, and some of them are frankly insignificant. I do want to go over the weapons in a little bit of detail, so let me get these other ones out of the way first. Now, leaning has been adjusted so that players can no longer spam Q and E to alter their hitbox when engaging at close range. This has been a known exploit for a while now, and it can be very frustrating to play against, so I'm glad to see that this has been slowed down a bit. Another big thing to note is prestiging will no longer cause your overall kills with each weapon and vehicle to reset, as many players complain that they would like to see their kill tally for their playtime overall, and not just for the current prestige that they're on. They've also done away with having to re-unlock your attachments for each weapon, as that can be very tedious. Now, I'm not exactly sure what they've done, as I won't be prestiging myself, but if I were to guess, you still have to unlock each weapon as you climb up in rank with each prestige, but once you have that weapon unlocked again, all of your previously unlocked attachments will go with it. At least that's what I hope they mean. And finally, to wrap off the main patch notes, they've fixed the anti-grenade trophy systems so that they're no longer destroying friendly grenades, and they now actually give XP for either using them or destroying them. They're also moved to a light gadget slot instead of a heavy gadget slot. Having them as a heavy gadget meant support players had to forgo their resupply boxes, so I'm glad to see that's been changed. Okay, so moving on to the weapons, I'm going to be starting with the snipers and marksman rifles. All snipers will be giving off a more noticeable muzzle flash when firing. I'm guessing this is to make snipers using the medium range optics more noticeable since their optics weren't producing a glare. Not sure how I really feel on this one, to be honest. It'll probably force a lot of snipers to use suppressors, which will probably just become frustrating. As for the marksman rifles, they've just announced this earlier today, so these changes aren't in effect yet, but each of the 4 rifles are getting buffed in their own individual ways. It's long been agreed upon that the marksman rifles don't sit anywhere in the current meta, and overall feel very lackluster to use. So each one is getting tweaked individually, so we'll have to see how that plays out in the next update. I hope what they're doing is enough because there's rarely a reason at the moment to choose a marksman rifle over either an AR or a sniper. For the assault rifles, some of the less popular choices got a bit of a buff this week. The FAMAS had its base damage increased from 24 to 26. This is a big change as it now makes the FAMAS a 4-shot kill instead of a 5 on unarmoured opponents. And I've been using it and I've got to say it's feeling pretty good. The SG550 is getting a slight buff by reducing its muzzle flash from 0.85 to 0.60. This will both make it easier to track targets when firing as your vision won't be as obstructed, and it'll make you slightly less noticeable. And finally for the assault rifles, the G36C now has a lower horizontal recoil and a slightly higher vertical recoil. My main gripe with the G36C has been its difficult horizontal recoil, so I think I'm going to class this as a buff. For the LMGs, the Ultimax got a big buff, so I'll be exploring that especially to see how it's improved. I've been seeing it used a lot lately, and I'm not sure whether it's because it's now good or because people are just testing it out. That remains to be seen. The L86 also now gets the red dot by default. This is probably to entice lower level players to try the support class. I'm not sure, but it sounds like a good change. For the SMGs, the UMP45 has gotten a slight damage increase from 25 to 28, but they've also nerfed its range slightly and given it some additional recoil. No word of an extended magazine in there either, which is a shame because that puts a lot of people off using the UMP45. So hopefully that comes eventually. The PP2000 also got its base damage increased just by 1 from 23 to 24. Although it didn't actually get implemented, so I'll have to wait on another update to get that. It's also gotten an additional 100 RPM, which takes it up to 1000 RPM. Also throw in some buffs to its accuracy and ADS, and I'll be looking forward to trying that one out. Now, finally the last category to know is going to be the carbines and the PDWs. The AS Val got buffed up after the horrendous bashing it got earlier this year, during the final months of the playtest where they took it from being an OP gun down to a UP gun. It now has a bit more range to it than before, as well as a buff to controlling its recoil. They also added an extra 1/3 of a second to its reload time, possibly to balance this out. The Honey Badger is also a gun that has had a bad time recently, after it got nerfed a while ago. I'm not sure what approach they're taking here, because they've reduced the damage from 32 to 28, but they're also making it more accurate by adjusting its recoil, giving it an extra round per magazine, making the reload time a bit faster, as well as a 10% increase to its rate of fire. So I'm definitely going to need to revisit this one as well. Anyway guys, that's pretty much all the keynotes from the latest patch. What's been your favourite changes? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd also appreciate if you could rate the video, and please consider subscribing if you're new. Remember to watch your house, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.